Hello, I'm Baghbani Ghoreishi, Assistant Professor of Graphic Design at Oakland University.
And I am Mehdad Sadaqat, Assistant Professor of Graphic Design at Florida Atlantic University. And we are pleased to present our research analyzing Iranian modern poster design based on Islamic manuscript today at TypeCon 2021.
This is Iran, as defined by current political borders. But when we talk about Iranian culture, we are no longer limited to political borders. We are talking about a cultural span extending from Western China to Eastern Europe and Eastern Africa, and from Central Asia to Southern India. Iranian culture, dominant or subdominant in different geographies and lands, has interacted with native cultures for thousands of years and has enriched itself over time. Therefore, its achievements have been turning points in the body of human cultural history, and people with different religions and ethnicities have always lived together to this cultural extent. The creation of contemporary Iranian posters is rooted in the historical, social, and cultural use of calligraphy, Tazhib, and painting. Iranian graphic designers work at the intersection of traditional calligraphy and image-making methods inspired by religious and cultural subjects. This type analyzes and classifies Islamic manuscripts from 610 CE to 1900 to understand relationships between typography and image in contemporary poster design in Iran.
Contemporary graphic design was born in Tehran at the beginning of the 20th century. In 1941, Tehran University offered a section dedicated to fine arts, specializing in graphic art and design. The Ministry of Culture and Arts later developed a decorative art section, inspired by Paris National School of Fine Arts and Bauhaus. Iranian students that had a path that began with the fine art before leading them to graphic design. Students such as Morteza Momayez, Qobad Shiva, Giti Novin, and Farshid Meskhali constitute the first generation of Iranian graphic designers whose works were influenced by the rules and criteria of graphic design imported from Western institutions. Graphic design in Iran, with the emergence of people like Reza Abedini, entered a new stage in its history. Digging in the history of Iranian Islamic visual culture to produce and recreate familiar visual values was a unique feature of this generation. Reza Abedini, as the most prominent figure of this age, believed that to obtain an Iranian identity, we need to create and revive visual and cultural extents. In his work, there is not necessarily a Paisley pattern or not necessarily of nostalgia, but there is a spirit that connects us to the visual Islamic traditions of Iran. He worked with the traditions in the way, but was not a traditional designer. And this process has been continued by the next generations of Iranian graphic designers until today.
Before analyzing and classifying the process of developing Iranian graphic design from early Islam to contemporary era, we would like to talk a bit about ourselves to understand our journey to this research topic better. We moved to the United States from Iran to continue our higher education. I started my first MFA degree at Florida Atlantic University in 2012, where Mehdad now is an assistant professor. And in 2016, Mehdad moved to Michigan to attend an MFA degree at Michigan State University. That is very interesting that I am living in Michigan right now, and it seems that we switch our places. Like any graphic design student in Iran and influenced by trends of those days, we loved posters and making them. And we were also eager to talk about posters. It was like posters were an integral part of our lives. Well, consequently, When we moved to the United States, we were still talking about posters. Studying in the United States has allowed us to study Western graphic design, discover our abilities, meet different people, and visit museums and educational space. Sorry, this is the best photo of Mertad of visiting the Cooper Museum.
I was lucky enough to work as a TA at Michigan State University under the supervision of a compassionate and capable mentor who introduced me to Nancy Skolos and Thomas Wedell's Type, Image, and Message books. You're probably familiar with this book. As a Nancy student at RISD, Kelly was able to convey the concept of this book to me profoundly and practically.
When Mertad and I started working as research partners, there were many references to this book in our conversations. This book broke the taboo of Western posters as an attractive but impenetrable visual element for us as an Eastern audience, and unpacking its layers helped us to understand this different visual culture better. For who of you are not familiar with this book, it describes four critical relationship between type and image that following criteria can delineate the integration of these media. The first category is separation. Type and image operate independently. The second one, fusion. Type and image into one unity. Fragmentation. The third category, type and image displace each other. And the fourth category, inversion. Type and image trade role.
We used it as a formula to reverse engineer the Western poster design. As an experiment, we wanted to see if it is possible to design for a different visual culture through this, or if it is possible to use Persian and Iranian visual elements in this way.
Well, we think it worked. It was visually pleasing, but there was something wrong. Something seems misplaced. It's like using salad ingredients for baking banana bread.
We started questioning ourselves. Like, does this new method we just found represent an Iranian culture? Do Iranian people get along with it? Isn't it too Eurocentric to extend to the different visual cultures? Doesn't it colonize the other visual tastes? We were sure that the authors of this book would never think of it as a model for poster design standardizations in the world. However, we were convinced that the existence and cultivation of diversity in visual cultures enrich our world. As a result, we decided to look for influential and shaping elements on the identity of Iranian visual culture by analyzing manuscripts in the region and territory of Iranian culture from the beginning of Islam to the contemporary era. To better understand the content of this presentation, it is crucial to acknowledge that image and illustration have faced enormous challenges since the beginning of Islam. Using the word image here does not necessarily refer to its Western and non-Islamic meaning and feature. The prohibition of utilizing images in the early centuries of Islam led artists to abstract and creative approaches to make images.
We classify our research materials into three main categories, including decorative. The image is decorative as part or in the service of type. The second category, formative. Type becomes an organic or abstract visual forms. The third one, constructive. Type and image relation established based on the grid or constructive structure. The first category, decorative, has itself three subcategories. The first subcategory is image is within type. The second subcategory, image is surrounding the type. And the third one, image overlap with type. In the first subcategory of decorative, image appears within the type in the form of geometric or organic shapes. An image exists within the type. It is sometimes part of the type in colored shapes or transformed to organic objects where the script is merged with vegetal and floral motifs. As you see in contemporary examples, points in Persian letter forms become colorful shapes and into images in right type transform to the images. In the second subcategory of decorative, type is surrounded by the image, which is sometimes seen as plant motif or cloudy borders. So we have some borders like clouds or some motifs in our images. Here are contemporary posters by Iranian designer that the type surrounded borders and floral images. That it shows that how the image and text are integrated to each other. In the third subcategory, image overlap types. Here, the image is displayed on the type and usually narrates the content of the text. In Persian old manuscript, Ghoreishi style is the most prominent example of this category, and the image includes floral designs, geometric patterns, hunting scenes, portraits, small scripts, and other motifs. Ghoreishi is primarily used in blend calligraphy, whereas decorative elements and calligraphic panels also surrounded it. Here is masterpiece of Hassan Zarin Qalam with religious stem. Another masterpiece of Hassan Zarin Qalam with details. These are some examples of contemporary Iranian posters that image and text are overlapped with each other. And it shows that how Iranian designers, they use the Persian culture elements as a tool for designing their text.
The second main category is formative, where type becomes an organic or abstractive visual forms. As you can see, there are two subcategories for that, abstractive and indicative. In abstractive, we have a scene model. The word scene is a Chinese in Arabic. So Muslims in China use the Arabic scripts for their religious texts and events. So they started using their forms and bringing their Chinese characters inspired from grass script or caoutchouc in their Islamic scripts. And as you can see here, how the scene style affected on contemporary Iranian posters. The other form is togra, which is unique calligraphic style that is used as a royal seal in Ottoman empires. And here are the posters that are inspired by togra style among Iranian graphic designers. Mirrored is another abstractive form where the composition on the left reflects the composition on the right. Yeah, it's easy and simple as mirror. And you can see here 3 examples of Iranian contemporary poster designs where designers use the mirror techniques. Indicative is the second category of formative, where the type indicates a zoomorphic form. The Islamic believes that every living creature signifies the power of the God has given rise to the creation of zoomorphic calligraphy. In this art, the words are manipulated and structured into a human figure, a bird, or an animal and object. You can see here there are animal forms made by type and scripts, but somehow indicating and representing human facial and human figure. And there are some contemporary posters, inspired from that technique. Indicative is not limited to the human figure, and as we talked about that, people could use animal forms as well. So Turkish calligraphers were skillful at transforming words and phrases into the shapes of animals. As you can see, we have a lion, we have bird and horse, all made through the scripts. And contemporary examples. Those people also created calligraphic compositions in the form of fruit, plants, and architecture. These objects hold religious meaning and were often composed of Islamic sayings. And contemporary examples, we still have objects, maybe less use of fruits, but as you can see, there are some common objects in our contemporary lives.
And constructive, the third category, type and image relation established based on the grid or constructive structure. Constructive has three subcategories: first, frame; the second, mihrabi; and the third, layout. The first subcategory, frame, of the constructive category, in this visual model, the type is surrounded by geometric and structural frames. The frame distances itself from a purely decorative element in the service of type and is visually placed in the first level of the hierarchy. These are some examples from Iranian contemporary poster design, that the frame is the main element and the text surrounded by the frame, and we have something like border that the text and background is separate from with each other, but the frame plays a key role to show the composition between image and text. The second subcategory of constructive is mihrabi. In this method, the combination of type and image is based on an architectural structure influenced by the shape of mihrab in Islamic religious places. Here are some examples of how the mihrab shape covered the type, and the form of mihrab is the main elements of the posters. And finally, in layout, as a third subcategory of constructive, type and image interacted on a grid structure influenced by Iranian miniatures. We see this structure in so many manuscripts of Persian culture. And as you can see here, type and image in Iranian contemporary examples interacted based on the grid layout, which influenced by Iranian manuscripts.
The results of this research and classification are exciting for us. As Iranian designers, we always felt these visual relationships in contemporary works, but there were fewer classified references for Iranian graphic design to study its historical roots objectively.
We are not saying that all contemporary Iranian designers with an Iranian identity in their works have used these historical and cultural copies as blueprints. However, what is certain is that the experience of living in this cultural geography and feeding directly or indirectly on this culture has an important impact on the development of visual atmosphere in Iranian graphic design that is rooted in history and identity of this land.
And finally, this research would not have been possible without the generous assistance of our graduate students at Florida Atlantic University, Hamid Adalati and Nargis Panahande. Thank you.
Thank you so much.